I love walking. I mean, something about walking opens up my body, my mind to feel more fresh, more free, more creative. I often feel like the more prepared I am for a sermon is determined by how much I got to walk that week. I thought this was a weird thing about me because as a Trek guide, we didn't have time to sit and study and prepare our lessons. We'd do that on the trail as we were walking. So I'd memorize my lessons while we walked. I thought it was just a weird habit of mine. If you were to come in here to the church while I was writing my sermons, you might discover me walking up and down the aisles in here. Weird fact about myself. And before you think I'm a weirdo, what I found out is Steve Jobs got all of his best Apple ideas walking. Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook does walking meetings with his staff members where they walk and they talk about things. According to a 2016 Stanford study, walking makes you 60% more creative. According to the Stock Institute in San Diego, California, walking improves your memory. And according to a 2014 article in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, walking at the pace that is comfortable for the walker is beneficial in allowing someone to solve problems. So in this Easter service, I am going to bring back one of the most biblical practices. Walking. I mean, yoga is so popular nowadays. Everyone loves to do some yoga. Everyone knows yoga comes from Hinduism. Others might talk about Tai Chi and its spiritual connections or other physical things. But what about us, Christians? What is our physical, spiritual practice? I submit to you today, we have two: eating and walking. And judging by the looks of us, we're good at one and maybe not so good at the other, right? We've got the eating figured out, but how do we do at the walking? Yet I stand before you this morning to make walking great again. You see, when things were great, when things were perfect, when they were at their best, do you know what? God walked with humans. God would come and walk with humans in the garden until one day, till there was a really, really bad meal where things went terribly wrong. In Genesis 3, verses 8, it says this: "Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord as he walked in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord." Ever since then, walking has been hard. It has been a practice that we delay, deny, or avoid. I find myself making excuses why I can't go for a walk. I'm too busy. I have more important things to do. I have better uses for your time. But I wonder, how can we be like Enoch, who walked with God all of his life? Pray with me as we discover the answer today. God, we come before you this morning, all too often hiding from the walk with you. Walking in the opposite direction, searching for fulfillment in so many other places. Yet this morning, God, through the power of your Spirit, may we have the eyes to see the God who comes walking up to us. May we learn from you in these walks. May we be led from these walks straight to your table. This Easter, may we not only celebrate your resurrection, but walk it out in our lives. So to that end, pour through me the gift of preaching, that Christ may be formed in hearts. It's in his name that I pray. Amen. So think about this. If you're a God-fearing Jew who thought Jesus was the Messiah, and you just witnessed him being crucified by Rome, what is the best thing you could do? I mean, put yourself in their shoes. You witnessed Jesus ride into Jerusalem and King. He's going into the temple. He's calling everyone out. You're like, this is the moment. Then they arrest him, they put him on trial, and they kill him. And you're sitting there thinking, what do we do next? You'd be completely shattered, right? Because the opposite of your expectations of what you thought was going to happen didn't take place. It's the worst case scenario. So you'd be convinced that you were probably going to suffer the same fate as Jesus if you were one of his followers. So you'd probably observe the Sabbath because you're a good Jew, and then you would flee. You'd take off. You'd get out of town. You'd go hide. And that's where I bring you to today, to 7 important miles. 7 miles is about the distance from where we sit now to downtown Salida. 7 of the most important miles in human history. 7 miles that would take them out of Jerusalem where they were, where they could go hide in a little town called Emmaus. A trip that probably took about 2 to 3 hours. And here's what that trip was like. Now that same day, 2 of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they had talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them. But they were kept from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" They stood still, their faces downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, asked them, "Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who does not know these things that have happened there in these days?" "What things?" he asked. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet, powerful in the word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one who would go on to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the 3rd day since all this took place. In addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning, but they didn't find his body. They came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see Jesus." He said to them, "How foolish are you, and how slow to believe all the prophets have spoken. Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and then enter his glory?" And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself. So who were these 2 people walking to Emmaus that day? Well, Luke tells us about Cleopas, and the other is his wife, Mary. Luke, in his passion story, likely because he's writing to Gentiles in this Roman context, in this story doesn't go to the details in naming all the women. We know from John's account that in John 19:25, John places this Mary as a witness to the crucifixion. Matthew's version of this story has this Mary referred to as the other Mary helping bury Jesus. And Matthew in chapter 28 has this Mary at the tomb. So she's witnessed it. She's seen it. She knows the good news of Easter morning. She's walking away disappointed. Why are they still confused? Why are they still questioning? Why are they still getting out of town? Yet, when you and me woke up this morning, We knew the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. We know about Jesus rising from the dead, and still you're here today to hear about it. You see, looking to that empty tomb for us mortals, there will always be so much to understand. This couple just can't see it. They can't picture it. And then up comes walking the resurrected Lord. Walking, catching up to them, and they still don't get it. Jesus is playing dumb to all their questions there. He's like, parents who are playing April Fool's Day pranks on their kids, just playing along here. Parents, you can repent for that later in the service if you'd like. Ask Aubrey what she did to our kids. Yet, their honesty in taking their greatest question to Jesus informs our greatest question. All this comes together when they told Jesus, we had hoped. We had hoped he was the one to come and redeem Israel. We hoped. And it doesn't seem like he was. Even after the empty tomb, even after the angels telling them what was going on, even after Jesus was alive, they're still disappointed. How can this be? Well, it's because their hopes weren't fulfilled. They had different hopes, different dreams, different things they wanted Jesus to do. Now, that is something we can all relate to, right? I mean, I'm 40 now, and at this point in my life, I plan to be retired from a successful Hall of Fame career in the NFL. If that didn't work out, I was going to be filming documentaries at this point, being the add-on member to NSYNC, right? You all are like, do I not look like I fit some of those qualities? You know me with this physique and my beautiful singing skills? Like, come on. Okay, maybe that's not realistic. Let me give you more realistic ones. After everything 2025 brought, I thought, 2026 has to be better, right? And yet so far 2026 has been like talking to 2025 saying, hold my beer. Here's how it's going to go, right? Like this is going to be rough. And that's something we can understand. Because we look at the empty tomb and we see the status of our lives. And even though the tomb is empty, we say, why has this not changed? What is going on? Why is this emptiness still in my heart? Specifically for them in this moment, Clopas and Mary, it was political reasons. They thought this was going to be their new king, their new leader, and he was not even close to living up to the expectations. Now that hits close to home, right? Because it's not the political leaders that we oppose that we're most disappointed with. It's the ones we like that let us down. Those are the ones we really get upset with. Am I preaching too close to home now, right? And so we leave feeling disappointed. And yet Easter morning changes everything. How? Because here again we have a couple once again running from God. Just like Adam and Eve ran away in the garden, this couple is running away. But the good news of Easter Sunday is that God catches up. God walks with them. And he talks with them, and he tells them that he is their own. Specifically, Jesus tells them the story of this book. He said that Jesus' death, his burial, his resurrection, this was the plan all along. He's like, did you not get it, guys? Starting with Moses and all the prophets. Easter is the morning is the fulfillment of all the work that started since the fall in that day in the garden. And the ways of evil have always been clear. Even today, the world is working to use our mortality against us. Wars continue to rage on to this day. But Jesus is king because Jesus wages war on death and wins. It'd go on to say, where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? But on the road this day, it gets so much better. Because on this day, a garden is sprouting. As we celebrate spring coming to life, this is the first seed of all of the new creation. The brokenness of the fall of man, the destruction of creation, this is all now being reversed. Luke is the story of reversal, and this is the reversal taking place. Today we celebrate the first day of the renewed, restored creation where God is fixing and is still in process of fixing all these things. So here's the good news of Easter morning. The good news is this couple can no longer run fast enough from the God who's chasing them. God chases them down and finds them. God is on the mission to walk with humans again. And God has succeeded. The story continues like this. As they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued on as if he were going farther. But they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took the bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. They asked each other, "Were our hearts not burning within us while he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us?" They got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. They found the 11 and those with them assembled together and saying, "It's true, the Lord has risen and has appeared to Simon." Then the two told what had happened on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. How kind of it is it to invite this stranger to stay with them, the hospitality they had there. I'd be concerned that I would be inviting like a sociopath to stay the night with me, and I wonder how many times we miss the opportunity for the risen Lord to share with us, a meal with us, because we're so worried about our safety. But we have to remember the claim of Luke. The claim of Luke is that Jesus is the new Adam. After Jesus' baptism, Luke goes on to talk about the genealogy of Jesus, and he goes all the way back to Adam with the genealogy. Adam means human. What is happening here is Jesus is teaching that couple and is teaching us here how to be human. And now we come back to the eating. The first meal in the Bible, things go terribly wrong. The couple gets in a pretty big fight after the meal, right? So if you're ever fighting with your spouse about where to eat sometime, just know it's biblical, right? And hopefully that's some encouragement for you. And yet, some say that Jesus eats his way through the Gospel of Luke. If you look at almost every big turning point in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus is eating a meal at that point. And that is where Cleopas and Mary finally get it. They finally see what is going on. Jesus represents for us what it means to be human, how humans should live. Jesus is the new Adam, and Jesus is teaching us how to eat. This couple is eating dinner with a guest, and they discover that the long curse has been broken. Death itself has been defeated, and that through this, God's new creation is brimming with life and joy and new possibilities. God finally gets to eat with us. This is the new Exodus, the new path to freedom. The slave master keeping the human race in bondage is death. Earthly tyrants borrow the power of death to boost their rule. The ultimate symbol of death is a Roman cross, but victory over death robs the powers of this world with their main threat. We as humans like to co-conspire with death, to rebel against God, to stand up against God's good creation. This word summed up we call sin. Yet here Jesus is leading us on a new journey to accompany him out of bondage into freedom. It is an invitation to walk with God, an invitation that starts in 7 miles in Emmaus. And so we've seen the action of God all over this story. But consider with me for a second the action of the disciples. God's disciples do 3 things. The first is a conversation with God. We go for a walk with God and we bring to God all our questions. Just like the old hymn says, now let us have a little talk with Jesus. The second step is to have a meal with Jesus, which we are getting ready to do here in a minute, but there is a third step in the action. After seeing this new creation, they got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. Think about that. 14-mile day, 7 miles in the dark at night. I hope they had good sandals, right? Even Chacos might give you blisters in that. They celebrated with each other. They're all coming to the same realization of this new reality coming through. But the story from here continues. Actually goes straight into the book of Acts. And by walking, these people would go on to share this story with the entire world. They would walk to town, from generation to generation to where we are today. And so it can be very easy, church, to come to Easter and be entirely unchanged. Why? Because your hopes weren't filled. But this story, to believe this story, means to take action. Action to live for this king, for this kingdom. And next week we were going to lean into what these specific actions are. So I hope you'll be here and come back and learn about this action. But the main action is 2 parts: to keep walking and to keep eating. See, before I moved here, I used to host a podcast. I know that's like the most middle-aged white guy thing to say right now, that I used to host a podcast. But the podcast was all about Colorado recreation and where to go and what to do and how to do it affordably. And the favorite episode I ever had was about a guy who hiked, or I should say walked, the Colorado Trail, starting in Denver is where it starts. It goes all the way to Durango. This is the book that he wrote. And what he discovered along the way, through photographs and stories, is that everyone walks the trail for the same reason. I hope to walk it someday. They have some brokenness in their heart. They have some pain going on, some hardship, some things they need to work out in their life on a really long walk. How biblical is that? See, one of the most amazing things to me about this story is that God came to earth, submitted himself to be human, which means he submitted himself to walk at 3.5 miles an hour. 3.5 miles an hour is what is claimed to be the speed an average human can walk. Now, some of us seem a little faster and a little slower than that, but I'll leave that up to you. But consider this. God changed the world at 3.5 miles an hour. How fast is God's speed? I submit to you that God's speed is 3.5 miles an hour. And Luke's invitation is to join Jesus on a journey of faith, a journey that will take us through our anxieties, our sorrows, our unfulfilled hopes, to meet Jesus on the trail for a walk. God who walks with us, who shares the secrets of life, the gift of his own presence with us, a journey that moves at 3.5 miles an hour. And the early church didn't know how to name or to brand this, so early on, they simply just called it the way of following Jesus. So let me ask, will you walk with Jesus? Will you follow him wherever he takes you? And where it eventually takes us to is the table. So I'd like to invite our servers to come up and join me at this time as we all get ready to eat this meal together. The last line of the text today is the two explaining to everyone else that they recognize Jesus at the breaking of the bread. We're getting ready to take the bread. Jesus, it's believed, had a unique way back then of breaking and praying and distributing the bread. So recognizable that this is when it all came together for his disciples. This is when they could truly see him. Can we see him now? See, as we come to the table to take this sacrament, communion, the Lord's table, this is no ordinary meal. It is a revolutionary meal. Jesus explained that on the road, that all the scriptures, all the sacraments work together. The scriptures explain the sacrament explains how to live the scriptures. And the two things together join to show Jesus' new reality. The spoken word and the sacrament form a new witness for this new life. So as we come together to take this meal, prepared for us this Easter, can you see how this reverses the world? Can you see how we get to walk and eat with God again? Can your hopes be fulfilled with this new creation instead of your unmet hopes and dreams? Can you see Jesus and meet him here at the breaking of the bread? Pray with me as we take this. God, I thank you for being our God who finds us here. Finds us in our journeys in life when we're hiding and running from you. How you chase us down and walk with us and care for us to bring us to this table with you. So we break this bread knowing what you did for us, how you care for us and love us so much that you would submit yourself to die and be raised again for us. We celebrate that this morning on this Resurrection Sunday. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.